What are you doing here for free? It's easy enough to tell. They put a pack on your back, send you straight to hell. Oh, highty-dighty. Who the hell are we? Rim Ram, 95th Infantry.
That is 101-year-old CEO Bauer of Ithaca, Michigan, a member of the 95th Infantry, later immortalized as the Iron Men of Metz after liberating that French city in November of 1944. Katrine McGregor, the woman that was sitting next to CO, he shared that video with us. And Katrine used to live in Boise, now lives in France, and was at the 80th anniversary of D-Day. The liberation of Metz and countless other French cities would not have happened without the initial invasion, the largest amphibious invasion in history on this day, June 6, 1944. There aren't many men left like CO, those that are amazing. They deserve our gratitude and our thanks. And those that aren't, well, they do too, which is what happened in one little French commune this week when they honored two Idahoans who helped push the Germans out of France.
For countless cities and small villages across northwestern France, there would be ceremonies to commemorate what happened 80 years ago today. A mayor will make a speech. Songs will be played. Wreaths will be placed. Dangy, France is no different.
Bonjour Dominique, vous allez bien?
Bonjour Patrick.
For Mayor Dominique Pin, Dangy's D-Day memories run deep.
For everybody in Normandy, the 80th anniversary is very important.
Patrick Hillier has heard the stories over the last 2 decades.
Well, the residents of Dangy had been under German occupation since June of 1940, so people here have been under, Nazi domination for 4 years. And most people knew somebody or had been affected directly by being arrested by the Nazi authorities and deported, obviously Jewish people and other people who were being persecuted by the Nazis. And if you had any links with the French resistance, then you were at risk of being arrested and severely punished as well. So it wasn't a nice place to be.
But that was about to change. Operation Overlord began on June 6, 1944. Nearly 160,000 Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy, including 73,000 Americans. And while that invasion became known by Day 1, D-Day, it actually lasted weeks, with more Allied soldiers arriving every day after, including one from Idaho. First Sergeant Virgil Brown.
He does not land until June 15th, so a week and a half after D-Day.
Kelly Smith teaches history at Thomas Jefferson Charter School in Caldwell. What do you like about history?
Oh, I'm always learning things.
Kelly first learned about Virgil's story about 10 years ago, when she and a former student were selected for a World War II research project.
And they chose us to go back east and research in Washington, D.C., and then the culminating thing was going to Normandy and finding the grave of the guy that we had researched, and it just so happened it was Virgil Brown.
Virgil, or Bud to his friends, grew up in Idaho Falls, the second of 5 kids and the only boy.
I just think the all-American guy, really.
After graduating from Idaho Falls High School, Virgil joined the Idaho National Guard and then enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1941. He arrived in England with the 183rd Field Artillery Battalion in 1943.
And he was only 22, and he had just gotten married, when they left.
6 weeks after that initial Normandy invasion, Allied advancement was showing signs of a stalemate, taking back only slivers of France at a time. By July 19th, they had liberated Saint-Lô, a little more than 20 miles from the coast. In order to break the deadlock, the Americans came up with Operation Cobra. On July 25th, an air attack by nearly 2,000 B-17s and B-24s dropped more than 3,000 tons of bombs, clearing the way for the Army's infantry and armored divisions. They took Saint-Gilles on the 26th, Marigny on the 27th. German opposition was minimal as they moved easily through Canisy, reaching Dangy by that afternoon, pushing the German Panzer Division further south. Just 4 kilometers in that direction sat the strategic town of Pont-Ricard, critical for being a crossroads and having a bridge crossing the Soule River.
Just another artery way out of breaking out of Normandy.
The 183rd and Virgil arrived at Pont-Ricard on July 28, 1944.
On that day, from what I've read, him and his men, they were heading towards Destination A and come across some Germans.
There were more than 250 of them. First Sergeant Virgil Brown had only about a dozen men with him.
Well, Virgil decided to pull him back, and they gathered what ammunition, they could and what guns they could, and then they pushed forward, and their main objective was a machine gun nest that was held by the Germans. So he organizes them and then charges the attack towards this machine gun nest. And in doing that, the initial wave, he was wounded, but then he continues onward towards the nest and helps disable it, and then is mortally wounded while doing that.
Virgil wasn't the only one.
A good chunk of those men didn't make it on that day in that particular sector.
His actions initially went unnoticed.
One big step forward towards liberating, ultimately Paris and then France.
But Virgil would be posthumously decorated with a Distinguished Service Cross, second only to the Medal of Honor.
So he gets that award for his bravery, on that exact day that he lost his life.
However, that would not be the last honor bestowed on First Sergeant Virgil Brown. He, along with 4 others, will now be forever memorialized in the center of Dangy, the small village the 183rd helped liberate nearly 8 decades ago.
I thought it was just incredibly special, especially him being an Idahoan and just having a little connection that we did to him. It, again, just keeps that flame of his memory alive.
A generational reflection for the French, but a new memory for many Idahoans who may have not known before now.
Just to remember Virgil Lowell Brown and to remember that he's special and that he should never be forgotten.
Virgil is buried at the Normandy American Cemetery on the bluff overlooking the coast. And years ago, his family had the option of bringing him home to Idaho Falls, but they decided to leave him there with 4 members of his battalion that were also killed on July 28th of that year. The other Idahoan honored was Dangy, who was Boise-born Richard Clemens. Clemens, who was also in the 183rd, also helped liberate Dangy during Operation Cobra. But he survived, and his battalion fought for 11 more months across France and Belgium. He also participated in the grueling Battle of the Bulge. He returned to Boise in 1945 and settled down with his wife. Clemens retired from the Army, a full colonel, and passed away in 2013 at the age of 94. Of the 16 million Americans who served in the armed forces during World War II, there are fewer than 90,000 left. This is all according to the National World War II Museum. Most of them are more than 100 years old now. It's estimated that we lose 131 World War II veterans each day.